Good morning, students. Happy Thursday. Today we're going to be working on 2.6 quiz reasoning. So this 2.6 is associated with 2.06 OHS quiz, and it's all about reasoning. So can we explain the reasons of what we're doing when we're solving is essentially what we are going to be doing today, which we've already done before. So your warm-up question is, Macy solved this problem on the left, showed all of her work. However, her final answer was not correct. Looking through her work, in which step did she make a mistake? So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out Macy's mistake. So looking at her work, first step she did was multiply by 3 on both sides. Remember, she's solving for W, so we're going to isolate this W. Okay, that's correct because the opposite would be to be dividing. Okay, the next thing she does is subtracts H. Okay, now we got to think about the W and H. What operation is between there? So because there's nothing, it's multiplication. So the opposite should have been division. So step 2 is incorrect because she should have divided, not subtracted. And step 3, she divided L, which is the exact thing she should have done in step 2 with H. And you actually could divide both of them at the same time, and that would work out just the same. Awesome job if you guys got that. Okay, so today's goal is to justify the steps. So we're putting justifications behind each step that we do. So here are some justifications for solving. So there's properties of equalities, which is important. It's what we're doing on both sides of the equation. So whenever I say, what do we have to do on both sides? Make sure you put it on both sides of your line. That's why, okay? We have to make sure that we are doing it to both sides to make it equal. So we have addition property of equality, so adding to both sides, subtraction, multiplication, and division, so all 4 of our properties. And then the 2 other things we've done in class is combining like terms, which I put a little picture. Remember all of our shapes and colors that we do when we combine or add or like terms. And then lastly, distributive properties. So we've talked about this as like casting your net or casting your line. Okay, when you multiply, that's in the red here. So here is an example of a whole worked out problem. Remember the first step, and you always have to remember how the steps go. So remember, we always want to distribute first, then combine like terms, and then do our order of operations, which is all of our properties of equality. So there is an example for you to look over. First it says fill in the missing steps for the equation shown here. So the first thing they did is they distributed. Okay, so they distributed that negative that's outside the parentheses. So it becomes negative 12, and then a double negative becomes a positive 3. Then the next step they do is they subtract 2c from each side. Okay, remember, if you're subtracting from both sides, that's equality, and it's subtraction. So you just have to understand what the operation going on is. Ooh, I didn't even realize they put subtraction of equality. I am wrong. There's a step before they subtract. So they distribute, and then they get 2c. And we can see that's the change here. If we look closely, remember after we distribute, we have to combine like terms. So they combine the negative c and the 3c. Okay, so the first 2 steps, if there are those terms, should be distribute and combining like terms. Okay, so that's always a good little hint. And then subtraction of equality. And then if we look here, the plus 8 on both sides, that is addition property of equality. And they have the last one is division because they divide by 10 on both sides. Number 3, it says justify the steps. So this one is a literal equation that they're trying to solve for. And we can see here they subtract on both sides. So that is subtraction property of equality. And then this step, they're multiplying on both sides. So that would be multiplication property of equality. Okay, so it's just defining what you're doing. We're going to do the you-dos together, and then I'm going to have you guys do the breakout room problems on your own. So the first step, we can see they multiply by -2 on both sides. And the second step, they are subtracting. So that should be subtraction property of equality. And then the last step, they divide on both sides. Number 5, first step, they add on both sides. So that's addition property of equality. And the next step, they multiply by those fractions, those reciprocals. So it is multiplication property of equality. So again, guys, it's just looking at what are you doing, okay? What are you doing in each step? Number 6, we have to actually solve and put the steps in order. So go ahead and draw your line down the middle. Okay, so I think I lined this up so you can go straight through. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here a little bit so it's a little bigger. So we want to think about the first step. So looking, there's no distribution because I don't have any parentheses. So the second step would be to combine like terms. And we do have x's on both sides. Or sorry, x's on one side. So we have 6x, and remember to take the sign with that 8x, so -8x, so 6 minus 8 is -2x. And I'm going to do it how they did. I'm going to make sure I put the color with the thing that I change. And then they have +3 equals 13. And what we just did was combining like terms. So that should be step 1. Okay, then the next step. Now we have to do our inverse operations. So undo our addition and subtraction first, and then multiplication and division. So looking here, we have to undo that +3. So we want to subtract 3 from both sides. And we end up with -2x equals 10. Okay, now finding the justification, we subtracted on both sides. So that's subtraction property of equality. The last step here, we need to get rid of that -2. So we need to divide by -2 on both sides. (10) divided by -2 is -5. And again, I divided on both sides to be division property of equality, distribution. And last but not least, we can see the answer is, it should be -5. Oh, there is a -5 in here. Gotta scroll a little bit. And there's your answers. Okay, let's try one more just like it. Okay, so for this one, we want to, we don't have any distributing because there's no parentheses. There's no like terms. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and draw my line down the middle. So we want to get rid of this -3 first, and it's being divided. So we have to multiply by -3 on both sides. Okay, we got to get rid of that denominator first. Okay, so that leaves us with -3 times -4 is -12. Ooh. Equals, and then just the numerators left. So 2x plus 8. And we multiplied by 3 on both sides, so it should be multiplication property of equality. Next step, undo our addition and subtraction. So we need to undo that plus 8. So we need to subtract 8 on both sides. Okay, so that leaves us with -12 minus 8 is -20 equals 2x. And we subtracted on both sides. So that's subtraction property of equality. Last step here, we need to get rid of the 2. So it's being multiplied. So the opposite would be to divide by 2 on both sides. So -20 divided by 2 is -10. So we divided by 2 on both sides. That's division property of equality. And last but not least, x equals -10. So there is problem number 8, 9, and 10 for you guys to do as your own practice to check how you're doing. And then go ahead and submit. You guys had your homework today is 2.06 Moodle content and 2.06 reasoning quiz. Have a fantastic day, guys.